One of the many powerful ways that you can use Ecamm is using it as a remote production suite, meaning that you'll be able to have somebody a little bit off camera or not that far away from you be able to control your particular setup, so that way you can feel free to create your content, whether that's recorded video or live streaming. There are a myriad of options that you can use to remote produce using Ecamm Live. This can be where you're having somebody that is not on camera controlling everything that needs to populate on the screen, or things that need to be heard from sound effects and the like. There are a lot of different tools that start to go far more into the advanced field and a little bit into the commercial video and audio space that may be necessary in order to do this. But with Ecamm, most of what you need is already included. This is just going to be additional tools that may be required in order to pull off the look that you're looking for. If you're going to have somebody offsite that's going to be monitoring your audio and your video feed, and you will not be included in this process, most of what they'll use is up here in the output section. There is a video monitor section as well as an audio monitor section. Within the video monitor section, you can select whatever HDMI or display link or any of those things that you have available. And for me, this would be my external monitor. And this way you're sending that feed to that monitor so that you can actually see it. When it comes to the audio monitor, if you're listening to yourself, if you're going to be producing it, you won't need this, because this will produce a feedback where you're hearing yourself. You may think that this is an echo, but it's not. This is just Ecamm outputting that audio to any of the speaker sources that you prefer, whether that's a headphone or going into a mixer suite or something of the like. So I'd like to do a very high level overview of breaking down some of the different tools and accessories that different creators have used in order to use Ecamm Live in a remote production setup. Let's take a look at some of the things that you might use if you're going to be doing this yourself. That means you're in a situation where maybe you're the one listening to the audio, but you're also part of the content as well. So maybe you have wireless microphones and the like. Let's take a look at the People of Video event that was hosted by Anna and Fulgens, where they were actually the actual producers of the show, but they're able to do this in a remote location, separate from any kind of a hardware setup like Ethernet or anything of the like. Let's take a look. Here we have a sample of a countdown timer with the scrolling ticker. That's all available within Ecamm with the People of Video icon available. As you can see, they're able to bring up comments actively on the screen. This is only completed by the setup that they're currently using. If we take a look at the setup, we can see that Fulgens has wired headphones that he's able to actively listen to the audio just to check for any interference issues. And we have a series of wireless and wired microphone options. Also included on the screen are a ton of icons, lower thirds, and scrolling tickers, all that's possible within Ecamm Live that's available for you to do within your scenes and overlay setup. Here we are in a different scenario with those same wired and wireless microphone options that will allow Fulgens to monitor the audio, in addition to being able to send that audio feed while live streaming in a different scenario, in a different setup. Some of the tools that are used in order to pull off this particular look include a Rodecaster Pro that allow for a lot of the audio connections and connectivity to go directly from the Rodecaster Pro into the MacBook Pro that they're using. The Rodecaster Pro has 4 XLR ports as well as the 3.5mm connection that will allow Fulgens in order to listen to the audio to make sure that everyone is heard clearly, as well as monitoring the audio himself. Some of the wireless handheld options include a UHF or ultra high frequency handheld system, and you can also send these and route these different audio connections still into the Rodecaster Pro. This all-in-one solution for the audio allows much of the needed manpower that would take maybe multiple systems or mixers or devices to record the audio, back that up, listen to it, and so on and so forth, all compact into the Rodecaster Pro. The camera system that they're using is the Sony a6400, as well as some LED light panels. Everything else, from the text on the screen, the countdown timers, and anything else in between, is automatically built within Ecamm Live. You have every tool at your disposal in order to do this. Many nonprofits as well as church ministries are also able to use this remote production feature by using Ableton Live and other programs as well. There's a video we're going to put in the description that is done by Jake Goslin of Churchfront that will allow you to see what it actually takes to pull off an entire setup for a nonprofit ministry using things like Ableton Live and so on and so forth. This may include using a different type of camera. So instead of a mirrorless camera, it would be something like a PTZ camera or a pan tilt zoom camera. So that way you can follow the speaker around or make sure that you're having a wide enough shot or various angles as you choose to. In addition, being able to automatically sync up your songs and your text on screen so the worship ministry is able to follow along. Let's take a look at our last option here with an off-screen remote producer just to show how that may be produced. We'll take a look at the Atomicon event for 2021. If we take a look at this particular setup, much of the similar options of your various text on screen that's being used, similar to what you may see for large news syndications, in addition to multiple camera angles, wireless handheld sets, and on and on. This is achievable by having someone off the screen in order to remotely produce this particular video footage so that you're not having to worry about controlling everything yourself in the midst of talking. Another nifty option is the ability to have a be right back screen, and you're using the same elements that you would use for a countdown timer. This is great for lunch, showing a little bit of the behind the scenes. And as you can see, we can see behind the panel, what are some of the things that's going on at the event. You even have in the bottom left corner, the ability to see the mixer. So in this instance, it's not a Rodecaster Pro. You can see a little bit of the light setup and a very different setup, but a lot of the same elements. Some of the elements used in order to produce some of these particular shots included an iPad that's allowed to share and show some of the text or comments that are coming on the screen, in addition to being able to see a live feed of what is going on to make sure that yourself as well as your guests are in the frame, as well as being able to swap between the comments and what you're seeing on the feed with a Stream Deck. We can see that an Ecamm Mini is being used to switch between the 2 to 3 different camera angles. Instead of using capture cards, you can use something like the Ecamm Mini that will function as essentially one major capture card as well as camera switchers. You can also use the camera switcher within Ecamm Live if you're using Cam Links or something similar. For the wireless handheld system, you can see that a UHF system is being used in addition to the Loop Deck Live that's very similar to the Stream Deck, but has some additional functionalities, including various knobs to have more controlled and organized systems when it comes to live streaming or recorded video content. In the top right, just out of the shot, we can see that an M1 Mac Mini is being used as well in order to produce this show instead of a MacBook computer. When we take a look at an inside peek of how this is actually set up within the particular computer system, we can see that they have the exact same scenes and overlays that you would use for any normal live stream or recorded video content. Everything is laid out from the various names of the scenes that are desired to be used, in addition to the elements that will be included within those overlay panels. You'll have the main icon window as well as your preview window, just to make sure before you actually share something live, you can preview it to make sure it's aligned properly, in addition to your volume, your audio, sounds, comments, and the like. With their traditional audio setup, we can see that they're using a traditional mixer, something similar to the Mackie Mix 8, instead of using something like the Rodecaster Pro. Some of that UHF audio is going into the mixer, and then they're sending that to the Mac Mini. The Mac Mini, instead of using a traditional monitor, is now going to be using a television. So you can still send and share that HDMI feed or display link ports. Anything that you would need, you can still share that so that you have a very large monitor if you're producing the show. There are a few other tools and elements that go into this production as well, including a mini monitor and other things that the producer may find helpful when producing this particular show. When it comes to the lighting setup that's being used, they're using a Varipole as well as traditional lighting in order to get very fine lighting with the softbox effect so that it's not very harsh lighting on the attendees or the people that are coming through to sit in this particular setup. And because this is Ecamm Live, you have the ability to still use some of your overlays or any designs that you want to set up all native within Ecamm Live. So as you can see, Ecamm Live is extremely powerful, and these are just a few options of how creators and businesses are using Ecamm Live, not just for live streams, but for events, as well as recorded options as well, to produce podcasts and all types of content. As you're considering using Ecamm as your remote production suite, make sure you take into an account certain things like going from SDI to HDMI, and those are very different options. So look into different commercial setups or tools or accessories that may be relevant to your industry, even though you're using Ecamm Live, when you're looking for additional accessories and tools. You still can choose your camera options if you want to use something like the PTZ cameras, or if you want to use a mirrorless system, or if you want to get into wireless HDMI options, if you want to have a floater camera so that you can have a man on the scene type of look so that people can follow you about without necessarily being attached to an HDMI cable. So remember to be extremely creative with what you're trying to do with Ecamm Live, because it is powerful enough to handle your ideas.